one who is perfectly honest and glorify the Supreme person of Lord God.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Ram Hare 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 Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Ram 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 Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram Ram, Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Ram Hare 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 Krishna Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Ram Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasad Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivacharya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I think my Prabhuji is unable to hear. Samyukta Mataji, can you know like which chapter in Bhagavatam we done?
Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. అది భాగవతంలో ఏ చాప్టర్ ఇప్పుడు భగవద్గీత అయ్యాక భాగవతమేనా మాతాజీ?
అవును మాతాజీ.
భాగవతంలో ఏ చాప్టర్ లో ఉన్నాం?
మాతాజీ అది గదాధర్ పండిత బ్రాంచెస్ ట్రీ ఉంది చూడండి మాతాజీ, అది చదివినట్టు గుర్తు మాతాజీ, బట్ చాప్టర్ నేమ్ గుర్తు రావట్లేదు.
Mataji, birth of Parikshit Maharaj is completed, Mataji.
సిసి కాదు మాతాజీ, భాగవతంలో.
Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj birth, అది completed. 13th chapter వెళ్ళాలి Mataji.
13th chapter. Yeah, okay. 1 second.
1.13.
हरे कृष्णा ललित मोहन प्रभु, संयुक्त माताजी, सपन प्रभु, लावण्य, दंडवत प्रणाम.
Hare Krishna. Adi.
I made you a host. So normal గా ఏం చేస్తాం అంటే మనము మొన్న భగవద్గీత చదివినట్టుగా 13th చాప్టర్, ఇప్పుడు భాగవతం ఫస్ట్ క్యాంటో 13th చాప్టర్ చదవాలి. ఫస్ట్ క్యాంటో 13th చాప్టర్ SB 1.13 వేదాభ్యాస్ అని కొట్టి వస్తుంది.
అదే చూసా. Are you able to see my screen, Hare Krishna?
Yes, Mataji.
Mataji, this is Bhagavad Gita, na?
Okay, one second.
Bhagavatam.
See, కొంచెం బ్యాక్ వెళ్ళి మళ్ళీ సమ్ టైమ్స్ Prabhupada writes description.
అదే
చూడండి, క్లిక్ ఆన్ 13. దాని మీదనే క్లిక్ బాగా ఇక్కడ ఉంది కదా లింకులు అవన్నీ. చాప్టర్ 13 ఉంది కదా, దాని మీద క్లిక్ చేయండి. ఏం లేదు. సో దిస్ ఈస్ ద చాప్టర్ 13, ధృతరాష్ట్ర క్విట్స్ హోమ్. Yeah. Continue. Chapter 13. Yes, you can continue. Text 1 onwards. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Just before starting, there are very 3 important slokas in this chapter. Whenever those slokas come, I will just recite the slokas also.
Yes,
We will remember them. Okay, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Not in the sake for we should continuously remember, but we should give some emphasis on those slokas.
Yes, Prabhuji.
The 13th chapter has some important slokas, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So, Prabhuji, one request, Prabhu. Since I am not these days, I am not in a proper, doing this. Whenever you find out these verses in our group, can you please right away type, Prabhu, Veda base SB 1.3, so that later I can refer.
Okay. I will do it personally, Prabhuji. Like if we are going in Bhagavatam, because I am very much accustomed in Bhagavatam, I don't know in CC, Prabhuji. I am sorry for CC, but for Bhagavatam, I can.
Yes, that's fine. The numbers, whatever the numbers, you just share.
I will do it.
Yeah. Full screen పెట్టి ఎందుకో పూర్తిగా కనబడలేదు. ఉంది కదా ఎక్స్ పక్కది, దాని మీద క్లిక్ చేయాలి, ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్ అయిపోతుంది కదా. హలో,
కనబడుతుంది. హరే కృష్ణ.
ఆ ఎక్స్ పక్క దాని మీద అది మాక్సిమైజ్ చేయి. ఇదంతా కాదు, మాక్సిమం ఉందా?
ఉంది, మాక్సిమమే ఉంది.
సార్ కంటిన్యూ ఎందుకు చిన్నగా క్యారీ అని. ఓకే, షూర్.
ప్రేయర్స్ చదువుతారా? షార్ట్ ప్రేయర్స్
చదువు 3 times ఓం నమో భగవతే షార్ట్ ప్రేయర్స్ ప్రాక్టీస్.
ఓం నమో భగవతే వాసుదేవాయ. ఓం నమో భగవతే వాసుదేవాయ. ఓం నమో భగవతే వాసుదేవాయ. అజ్ఞానతిమిరాంధస్య జ్ఞానాంజనశలాకయా చక్షుర్మిలితం येन తస్మై శ్రీ గురవే నమః. శ్రీ చైతన్య మనోభీష్టం స్థాపితం येन భూతలే స్వయం రూపా కదా మహ్యం దదాతి స్వపదాంతికం. జయ శ్రీ కృష్ణ చైతన్య ప్రభు నిత్యానంద శ్రీ అద్వైత గదాధర శ్రీవాసాది గౌర భక్త వృంద. హరే కృష్ణ 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 హరే హరే, హరే రామ 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 హరే హరే. హరే కృష్ణ 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 హరే హరే, హరే రామ 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 హరే హరే. హరే కృష్ణ 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 హరే హరే, హరే రామ 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 హరే హరే. రీడింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 13th chapter, Dhritarashtra quits home, first verse. Samyukta Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah. Please continue.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Sri Suta Goswami said, Sri Suta Goswami said, while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidura received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya and then returned to Hastinapura. He became as well versed in the subject as the desired purport. Vidura, one of the prominent figures in the history of Mahabharata. He was conceived by Vyasadeva in the womb of the maidservant of Ambika, mother of Maharaj Pandu. He is the incarnation of Yamaraja. Being cursed by Manduka Muni, he was to become a Shudra. The story is narrated as follows. Once upon a time, the state police caught some thieves who had concealed themselves in the hermitage of Manduka Muni. The police constables, as usual, arrested all the thieves and Manduka Muni along with them. The magistrate specifically punished the Muni to death by being pierced with a lance. When he was just to be pierced, the news reached the king and he at once stopped the act on consideration of his being a great Muni. The king personally begged the Muni's pardon for the mistake of his men, and the saint at once went to Yamaraja, who prescribes the destiny of the living beings. Yamaraja, being questioned by the Muni, replied that the Muni in his childhood pierced an ant with a sharpened straw, and for that reason he was put into difficulty. The Muni thought it unwise on the part of Yamaraja that he was punished for his childish innocence, and thus the Muni cursed Yamaraja to become a Shudra. And this Shudra incarnation of Yamaraja was known as Vidura, the Shudra brother of Dhritarashtra and Maharaja Pandu. But this Shudra, son of the Kuru dynasty, was equally treated by Bhishma Deva along with his other nephews, and in due course, Vidura, son of the Kuru dynasty, Vidura was married with a girl who was also born in the womb of a Shudrani by a Brahmana. Although Vidura did not inherit the property of his father, the brother of Bhishma Deva, still he was given sufficient state property by Dhritarashtra, the elder brother of Vidura. Vidura was very much attached to his elder brother, and all along he tried to guide him on the right path. During the fratricidal war, Mataji, fratricidal,
Fratricidal.
Fratricidal war of Kurukshetra, Vidura repeatedly implored his elder brother to do justice to the sons of Pandu. But Duryodhana did not like such interference by his uncle, and thus he practically insulted Vidura. This resulted in Vidura's leaving home for pilgrimage and taking instructions from Maitreya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah. This is the story of Vidura, previous birth of Vidura, like previous story. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, I can hear some chanting in the behind from video. Is it just me?
Hare Krishna?
No, Prabhuji, we are not hearing it. We are not hearing it, Prabhuji. No problem.
Oh, okay. I'm hearing Srila Prabhupada's chanting. Some video seems to be going on. I thought it was not me. Okay, let me check.
Is it on my screen, Prabhuji?
No, it's just audio from the YouTube. So, okay, no problem. Let me check mine.
If you open that video, you can close that, Prabhu. You can read.
Yeah. I think it's my my computer. Sorry. Srila Prabhupada's video was going on with chanting. So, thank you.
Yeah, please continue. Tapan Kumar Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, I'll continue. Srimad Bhagavad Gita 113.2. Bhagavatam. Yeah, 113.2 translation. After asking various questions and becoming established in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna, Vidura retired from putting questions to Maitreya Muni. Purport. Vidura retired from putting questions before Maitreya Muni when he was convinced by Maitreya Rishi that summum bonum of life is to be finally situated in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna, who is Govinda, or the one who satisfies his devotees in all respects. The conditioned soul, the living being in material existence, seeks happiness by employing his senses in the modes of materialism, but that cannot give him satisfaction. He then searches after the supreme truth by empiric, philosophical, speculative method and intellectual feats. But if he does not find the ultimate goal, He again goes down to material activities and engages himself in philanthropic and altruistic works, which all fail to give him satisfaction. So neither fruitive activities nor dry philosophical speculation can give one satisfaction, because by nature a living being is the eternal servitor of Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and all the Vedic literatures give him direction towards the ultimate end. The Bhagavad Gita 15.15 confirms this statement. Like Vidura, an inquisitive conditioned soul must approach a bona fide spiritual master like Maitreya, and by intelligent inquiries must try to know everything about karma, fruitive activities, jnana, philosophical research for the supreme truth, and yoga, the linking process of spiritual realization. One who is not seriously inclined to put questions before a spiritual master need not accumulate a show bottle spiritual master, nor should a person who may be a spiritual master for other pose to be so if he is unable to engage his disciple ultimately in transcendental loving service of Lord Sri Krishna. Vidura was successful in approaching a spiritual master like Maitreya, and he got the ultimate goal of life, bhakti unto Govinda. Thus, he was nothing to be known further about spiritual progress. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, Lalit Mohan Prabhu, please continue.
Translation. When they saw Vidura return to the palace, all the inhabitants, Maharaj Yudhishthira, his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Satyaki, Sanjaya, Kripacharya, Kunti, Gandhari, Draupadi, Subhadra, Uttara, Kripi, many other wives of the Kauravas and other ladies with children, all hurried to him in great delight. It so appeared that they had regained their consciousness after a long period. Purport by His Divine Grace from Srila Prabhupada. Gandhari, the ideal chaste lady in the history of the world. She was the daughter of Maharaj Subala, the king of Gandhara, now Kandahar in Kabul. And in her maiden state, she worshipped Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is generally worshipped by Hindu maidens to get a good husband. Gandhari satisfied Lord Shiva, and by his benediction to obtain 100 sons, she was betrothed to Dhritarashtra, despite his being blind forever. When Gandhari came to know that her would-be husband was a blind man, to follow her life companion, she decided to become voluntarily blind. So she wrapped up her eyes with many silk linings, and she was married to Dhritarashtra under the guidance of her elder brother Sakuni. She was the most beautiful girl of her time, and she was equally qualified by her womanly qualities, which endeared every member of the Kaurava court. But despite all her good qualities, she had natural frailties of a woman, and she was envious of Kunti when the latter gave birth to a male child. Both the queens were pregnant, but Kunti first gave birth to a male child. Thus Gandhari became angry and gave a blow to her own abdomen. As a result, she gave birth to a lump of flesh only. But since she was a devotee of Vyasadeva, by the instruction of Vyasadeva, the lump was divided into 100 parts, and each part gradually developed to become a male child. Thus, her ambition to become the mother of 100 sons was fulfilled, and she became to nourish all the children according to her exalted position. When the intrigue of the battle of Kurukshetra was going on, she was not in favor of fighting with the Pandavas. Rather, she blamed Dhritarashtra, her husband, for such fratricidal war. She desired that the state be divided in two parts, for the sons of Pandu and her own. She was very affected when all her sons died in the battle of Kurukshetra, and she wanted to curse Bhimasena and Yudhishthira, but she was checked by Vyasadeva. Her mourning over the death of Duryodhana and Dushasana before Lord Krishna was very pitiful. And the Lord Krishna pacified her by transcendental messages. She was equally aggrieved on the death of Karna, and she described to Lord Krishna the lamentation of Karna's wife. She was pacified by Srila Vyasadeva when he showed her dead sons, then promoted to the heavenly kingdoms. She died. Yes. She died along with her husband in the jungles of Himalayas near the mountains mouth of Ganges. She burned in the forest fire. Maharaj Yudhishthira performed the death ceremony of his uncle and aunt. Mataji, should I continue? Or someone else? You go ahead. Or will you go ahead?
Yeah, please continue, Prabhu, so that we'll get more time.
Okay, Mataji. Pritha, daughter of Maharaj Surasena and sister of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna's father. Okay. Pritha is daughter. Achha, okay, I'm sorry. Pritha, daughter of Maharaj Surasena and sister of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna's father. Later, she was adopted by Maharaj Kunti Bhojan, and hence she is known as Kunti. She is the incarnation of the success potency of the personality of Godhead. The heavenly denizens from the upper planets used to visit the palace of King Kunti Bhojan, and Kunti was engaged for their reception. She also served the great mystic sage Durvasa, and being satisfied by her faithful service, Durvasa Muni gave her a mantra by which it was possible for her to call for any demigod she pleased. As a matter of inquisitiveness, she at once called the sun god for the sun god, who desired couplement with her, but she declined. But the sun god assured her immunity from virgin adulteration. So she agreed to his proposal. As a result of his couplement, she became pregnant, and Karna was born by her. By the grace of the sun, she again turned into a virgin girl. But being afraid of her parents, she quitted the newly born child Karna. After that, when she actually selected her own husband, she preferred Pandu to be her husband. Maharaj Pandu later wanted to retire from family life and adopt the pronounced sort of life. Kunti refused to allow her husband to adopt such life. But at last, Maharaj Pandu gave her permission to become a mother of sons by calling some other suitable personalities. Kunti did not accept this proposal at first, but when vivid examples were set by Pandu, she agreed. Thus, by dint of mantra awarded by Durvasa Muni, she called for Dharmaraj, and thus Yudhishthira was born. She called for demigod Vayu, air, and thus Bhima was born. She called for Indra, the king of heaven, and thus Arjuna was born. The other two sons, namely Nakula and Sahadeva, were begotten by Pandu himself in the womb of Madri. Later on, Maharaj Pandu died at an early age, for which Kunti was so aggrieved that she fainted. Two co-wives, namely Kunti and Madri, decided that Kunti should live for the maintenance of the 5 minor children, the Pandavas, and Madri should accept the sati ritual by meeting voluntary death along with her. This agreement was endorsed by great sages like Satashringa and others present on the occasion.
Yeah,
Later on,
yeah.
yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Samyukta Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Chappandi.
Mataji, Bhavna wants to read Mataji. Shall she?
Yeah, sure. Sure, Amma.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Later on, when the Pandavas were banished from the kingdom by the intrigues of Duryodhana, Kunti followed her sons, and she equally faced all sorts of difficulties during those days. During the forest life, one demon girl, Hidimba, wanted Bhima as her husband. Bhima refused, but when the girl approached Kunti and Yudhishthira, they ordered Bhima to accept her proposal and give her a son. As a result of this combination, Ghatotkacha was born, and he fought very valiantly with his father against the Kauravas. In their forest life, they lived with a Brahmana family that was in trouble because of one Bakasura demon. And Kunti ordered Bhima to kill the Bakasura to protect the Brahmana's family against troubles created by the demon. She advised Yudhishthira to start for the Panchala Desha. Draupadi was gained in this Panchala Desha by Arjuna. But by order of Kunti, all 5 of the Pandava brothers became equally the husbands of Panchali or Draupadi. She was married with 5 Pandavas in the presence of Vyasadeva. Kunti Devi never forgot her first child Karna, and after Karna's death in the battle of Kurukshetra, she lamented and admitted before her other sons that Karna was her eldest son prior to her marriage with Maharaja Pandu. Her prayers for the Lord after the battle of Kurukshetra, when Lord Krishna was going back home, are excellently explained. Later, she went to the forest with Gandhari for severe penance. She used to take meals after each 30 days. She finally sat down in profound meditation and later burned to ashes in a forest fire. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mataji.
Hare Krishna. School కి వెళ్ళలేదా ఇవాళ భావన?
Hare Mataji.
ఓకే. యా, థ్యాంక్ యూ అమ్మా.
Shall I read,
మాతాజీ
Mataji?
మీరు కంటిన్యూ చేయండి. ద్రౌపది.
Yes, Mataji. Draupadi, the most chaste daughter of Maharaj Drupada, and partly an incarnation of the goddess Sachi, the wife of Indra, Maharaja Drupada performed a great sacrifice under the superintendence of the sage Yaja. By his first offering, Drishtadyumna was born, and by the second offering, Draupadi was born. She is therefore the sister of Drishtadyumna, and she also named Panchali. The 5 Pandavas married her as a common wife, and each of them begot a son in her. Maharaj Yudhishthira begot a son named Pratibit. Bhimasena begot a son named Sutoshama. Arjuna begot
సోమ.
Sutasoma. Sorry, Mataji. Sutasoma. Arjuna begot Shrutakirti. Nakula begot Shatanika. And Sahadeva begot Shrutakarma. She is described as a most beautiful lady, equal to her mother-in-law Kunti. During her birth, there was an arrow message that she should be called Krishna. The same message who declared that she was born to kill many a Kshatriya. By dint of her blessings from Shankara, she was arrived 5 husbands equally qualified. When she preferred to select her own husband, princes and kings were invited from all the countries of the world. She was married with the Pandavas during their exile in the forest. But when they went back home, Maharaja Drupada gave them immense wealth as a dowry. She was well received by all daughters-in-law of Dhritarashtra. When she was lost in a gambling game, she was forcibly dragged into the assembly hall, and an attempt was made by Dushasana to see her naked beauty. Even though there were elderly persons like Bhishma and Drona present, she was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and by her praying, the Lord himself became an unlimited garment to save her from the insult. A demon of the name Jatasura kidnapped her, but her second husband Bhimasena killed the demon and saved her. She saved the Pandavas from the curse of Maharshi Durvasa by the grace of Lord Krishna. When the Pandavas lived in incognito in the palace of Virata, Kichaka was attracted by her exquisite beauty, and by arrangement with Bhima, the devil was killed and she was saved. She was very much aggrieved when her 5 sons were killed by Ashwadhama. At the last stage, she accompanied her husband Yudhishthira and others and fell on the way. The cause of her falling was explained by Yudhishthira. But when Yudhishthira entered the heavenly planet, he saw Draupadi gloriously present there as the goddess of fortune in the heavenly planet, Subhadra, daughter of Vasudeva and sister of Lord Sri Krishna. She was not only a very dear daughter of Vasudeva, but also a very dear sister to both Krishna and Baladeva. The 2 brothers and sister are represented in the famous Jagannath temple of Puri, and the temple is still visited by thousands of pilgrims daily. This temple is in remembrance of the Lord's visit at Kurukshetra during an occasion of solar eclipse and his subsequent meeting with the residents of Vrindavana. The meeting of Radha and Krishna during this occasion is a very pathetic story, and Lord Sri Chaitanya, in the ecstasy of Radharani, always pinned for Lord Sri Krishna at Jagannath Puri. While Arjuna was at Dwaraka, he wanted to have Subhadra as his queen, and he expressed his desire to Lord Krishna. Sri Krishna knew that his elder brother Lord Baladeva was arranging her marriage elsewhere, and since he did not dare to go against the arrangement of Baladeva, he advised Arjuna to kidnap Subhadra. So when all of them were on a pleasure trip on the Raivata hill, Arjuna managed to kidnap Subhadra according to the plan of Sri Krishna. Sri Baladeva was very angry at Arjuna and he wanted to kill him. But Lord Krishna implored his brother to excuse Arjuna. Then Subhadra was duly married with Arjuna and Abhimanyu was born of Subhadra. At the premature death of Abhimanyu, Subhadra was very mortified. But on the birth of Parikshit, she was happy and solaced. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you.
Nice words, Mataji.
Yeah, yeah. 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 13th chapter, 5th verse. Translation. With great delight, they all approached him as if life had returned to their bodies. They exchanged obeisances and welcomed each other with embraces. Purport. In the absence of consciousness, the limbs of the body remain inactive. But when consciousness returns, the limbs and senses become active, and existence itself become delightful. Vidura was so dear to the members of the Kaurava family that his long absence from the palace was comparable to inactivity. All of them were feeling acute separation from Vidura, and therefore his return to the palace was joyful for all. Sixth translation. Due to anxieties and long separation, they all cried out of affection. King Yudhishthira then arranged to offer sitting accommodations and a reception. Yeah, 13.7. Translation. After Vidura ate sumptuously and took sufficient rest, he was comfortably seated. Then the king began to speak to him, and all who were present there listened. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Purport. King Yudhishthira was expert in reception also, even in the case of his family members. Vidura was well received by all the family members by exchange of embraces and obeisances. After that, bathing and arrangement for sumptuous dinner were made, then he was given sufficient rest. After finishing his rest, he was offered a comfortable place to sit, and the king began to talk about all happenings, both family and otherwise. That is the proper way to receive a beloved friend or even an enemy. According to Indian moral codes, even an enemy received at home should be so well received that he will not feel any fearful situations. Yeah. That is the proper way to receive a beloved friend or even an enemy. According to Indian moral codes, even an enemy received at home should be so well received that he will not feel any fearful situation. An enemy is always afraid of his enemy, but this should not be so when he is received at home by his enemy. This means that a person who received at home should be treated as a relative. So what to speak of a family member like Vidura, who was a well-wisher for all the members of the family. Thus, Yudhishthira Maharaj began to speak in the presence of all the other members. Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes, Apan Kumar Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, "My uncle, do you remember how you always protect us along with our mother from all sorts of calamities? You're partially like the wings of a bird, saved us from poisoning and arson. Due to Pandu's death at an early age, his minor children and widow were the object of special care by all the elderly members of the family, especially Bhishma Deva and Mahatma Vidura. Vidura was more or less partial to the Pandavas due to their political position. Although Dhritarashtra was equally careful for the minor children of Maharaja Pandu, he was one of the interviewing parties who wanted to wash away the descendants of Pandu and replace them by raising his own sons to become the rulers of the kingdom. Mahatma Vidura could follow this interview of Dhritarashtra and company, and therefore, even though he was a faithful servitor of his eldest brother Dhritarashtra, he did not like his political ambition for the sake of his own sons. He was therefore very careful about the protection of the Pandavas and their widow mother. Thus, he was, so to speak, partial to Pandavas, preferring them to the sons of Dhritarashtra, although both of them were equally affectionate in his ordinary eyes. He was equally affectionate to both the camps of nephews in the sense that he always chastised Duryodhana for his intergrowing policy against his cousins. He always criticized his elder brother for his policy of encouragement to his sons, and at the same time, he was always alert in giving special protection to Pandavas. Although these different activities of Vidura within the palace politics made him well known as partial to the Pandavas, Maharaja Yudhishthira has referred to the past history of Vidura before his going away from the home for a prolonged pilgrim's journey. Maharaja Yudhishthira reminded him that he was equally kind and partial to his grown-up nephews, even after the Battle of Kurukshetra, a great family disaster. Before the Battle of Kurukshetra, Dhritarashtra's policy was peaceful annihilation of his nephews, and therefore he ordered Purochana to build a house of lac at Varanavata and when the building was finished, Dhritarashtra desired that his brother's family live there for some time. When the Pandavas were going there in presence of all the members of royal family, Vidura tactfully gave instruction to the Pandavas about the future plan of Dhritarashtra. This is specifically described in Mahabharata, Adi Parva 144. He indirectly hinted even a weapon not made of steel or any other material element can be more sharp enough to kill an enemy, and he who knows this is never killed. That is to say, he hinted that the party of Pandavas was being sent to Varanavata to be killed, and thus he warned Yudhishthira to be very careful in their new residential palace. He also gave indications of fire and said that fire cannot extinguish the soul but can annihilate the material body. But one who protects the soul can live. Kunti could not follow such indirect conversations between Maharaja Yudhishthira and Vidura, and thus when she inquired from her son about the purport of the conversation, Yudhishthira replied that from the talks of Vidura, it was understood that there was a hint of fire in the house where they were proceeding. Later on, Vidura came in disguise to the Pandavas and informed that the housekeeper was going to set fire to the house on the 14th night of the waning moon. It was an interview of Dhritarashtra and that the Pandavas might die altogether with their mother. And by his warning, the Pandavas escaped through the tunnel underneath the earth, so that their escape was also unknown to Dhritarashtra. So much so that after setting the fire, Kauravas were so certain of the death of Pandavas that Dhritarashtra performed the last rites of death with great cheerfulness. And during the mourning period, all the members of palace became overwhelmed with lamentation. But Vidura did not become so because of his knowledge that Pandavas were alive somewhere. There are many such instances of calamities, and in each of them, Vidura gave protection to the Pandavas on one hand, and on the other, he tried to restrain his brother Dhritarashtra from such interfering politics. Therefore, he was always partial to the Pandavas, just as the bird protects its eggs by its wing. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, Lalit Mohan Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. Just after finishing this, I wanted to share something, Mataji.
Yes.
If you are ready to hear. Translation. While traveling on the surface of the earth, how did you maintain your livelihood? At which holy places and pilgrimage sites did you render service? Purport. Vidura went out from the palace to detach himself from the household affairs, especially political intrigues, as referred to herein before. He was practically insulted by Duryodhana's calling him a son of a Shudrani. Although it was not out of place to talk loosely in the case of one's grandmother. Vidura's mother, although a Shudrani, was the grandmother of Duryodhana. And funny talks are sometimes allowed between grandmother and grandchildren. But because the remark was an actual fact, it was unpalatable talk to Vidura. And it was accepted as a direct insult. He therefore decided to quit his paternal house and prepare for the renounced order of life. This preparatory stage is called Banaprastha Ashrama, or retired life for traveling and visiting the holy places on the surface of the earth. In the holy places of India, like Vrindavana, Haridwar, Jagannath Puri, and Prayaga, there are many great devotees, and there are still free kitchen houses for persons who desire to advance spiritually. Maharaj Yudhishthira was inquisitive to learn whether Vidura maintained himself by the mercy of free kitchen houses, Chatras.
Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, next shloka is also that is a very important shloka, Maharaj.
Okay.
If you can. Let me recite this.
Yes. Okay. Just a second. Yes.
भवद्विधा भागवतास् तीर्थभूत स्वयं विभो तीर्थि कुर्वन्ति तीर्थानि स्वान्तस्तेन गदावृता. I'll do it again. भवद्विधा भागवतास् तीर्थभूत स्वयं विभो तीर्थि कुर्वन्ति तीर्थानि Swantastena Gadavृता. So the translation, if we go, can you scroll down, Mataji? So this is what Yudhishthira Maharaj is telling to Vidura. As Vidura has finished all his Tirtha Yatras, when he comes back, this is what Vidura tells to, this is what Dharmaraj says to Vidura. What he says, my lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. You turn all places into places of pilgrimage. So this is a very important shloka, Prabhuji. Like how a devotee should be, how we should treat a devotee. Should I go to the previous verses, because I wanted to share some points in the previous verses?
Yes, Prabhu. Which one?
There is a genealogical history, like in 13, 7, 6, and 8, I guess. 6, 7, and 8.
ఇది గాంధారి వాళ్ళ చూపిస్తారు అదేనా
Yeah, after that there is one, what to say, in one purport Prabhupada says that even the enemy is being treated as
okay enemy reception.
Yeah, this we sort of see in the history books generally, that enemy is treated as a friend when he comes to home and he feels so secure, right? Yeah. So this is even followed nowadays, Mataji. If you go to the Pashtun areas of Afghanistan, so they have this culture of Pashtun Valley. See, whenever you go to these places, these Pashtuns or the Kandaharis or this, what do you say, Afghanis, they have a saying, I am a 10,000 year Pashtun and I am 700 years Muslim and I am 40 years Pakistani. So this is what they're saying is actually. Means how things influence their culture. They might be Pakistanis or they might be the Pashtuns now, but I know they might be influenced by the Islam and Pakistanis nowadays, but they were actually Pashtuns.
ఏంటి ప్రభుజీ అది?
See, Pashtun Valley is a culture, Mataji.
Oh, Pashtun Valley.
Pashtun Valley. That is a culture actually, which is followed. There are 4 codes in Pashtun Valley, which is actually followed by the Pashtuns of Afghanistan. Times might change, but you can't take out the culture from the people. Like nowadays, this week is a Halloween week, right?
Yes.
Halloween means, this is an end of summer and start of winter. And actually, generally what happens is, there is a Celtic, Celt we call it, the Celtic, the Europeans call it. There is a culture before the Christianity, which is followed in the part of the France and the England, right? So what they do when the winter arrives, to just ward off all these evil spirits, they do this Halloween, right? Samain, they call it as actually. So what they do is, they dress like evil spirits and they will ward off all the evil spirits which are about to come in the winter and take the lives of the people, because the winters are very harsh there. So generally, the people, the nature, earlier before the advent of Christianity over there, what happens is they used to follow the Devi Devatas there, and they do their bonfire and they dress like this and they go just to ward off all the bad spirits to come and take their lives in the winter. So this is what they do. So this is the culture. Now, why I have given this example is this is the culture. You cannot take the culture out of the people. And in the same with the Pashtun Valley. So there are 4 codes in the Pashtun Valley, out of which one is to always treat any guest with all the honors. Even if you can't eat yourself, you should do something, beg, borrow, do anything, and get and treat the guest. So this is the culture which they have. And even though if it is an enemy, if he comes into your house, you should treat him in this way. And after he crosses your boundary, you might kill him. That is other thing. But when he comes into your boundary, you should treat him as a guest. If he takes your shelter. So this is the Pashtun Valley. So this culture is still predominant now in the Kshatriya community. Earlier this Afghanistan, Pakistan and all these places were the actual borders of the Vedic Sanatana Dharma to the otherly lands. So these people, this Afghanis and the Pakistanis, the Punjabis, they are the one who protected this land for thousands of years. And the culture, the Pashtun Valley culture is still there with them now. And this is why the Osama bin Laden has been given shelter to them, because he seeks shelter. And the whole Afghanistan was, brutally, shot down for 20 years, but still they didn't give up their, this guy. And in between, he has, crossed the border of Afghanistan and he entered the Pakistan. Punjabi's culture is different. So he got killed over there. Now you understanding the Mataji, I'm not giving the history, but the culture which Prabhupada explains here in the previous days was still there, still prevalent in some parts of the world, in somehow or other. And the culture is one thing which you cannot take out of the people. You might change the religion, but culture, no. Because culture comes from the water actually. So people might, dress differently, but water cannot be changed. They cannot draw the water from other places of the world and then drink them. No, it's not possible. So that's why the culture is, prevalent. And earlier days, people used to follow God so much and the nature so much that they are entwined into the culture. And they have all this, every water is different. Have you heard this? Jaise pani badalti hai, waise vani badalti hai. The moment the water changes, the sound also changes. The same Telugu people, Telugu speaking people, the Godavari, districts have a different accent, and the Guntur and Vijayawada, they have a different accent. And if you go to the, northern areas, northern Andhra, like Vamsadhara area, like Srikakulam, Vijayanagaram, and Visakhapatnam, they have a different way, because river is different. No? For every place, the river is different. So the culture differs. Oh, so I'm sorry, I've taken a lot of time. And for every purpose, I can give a lot of explanations actually, how we should go deep. Like if you see the Gandhari, the people of Kandahar region, they're very, very stubborn, very, very strong. These same Pashtuns, they're very strong and stubborn. If they decided something, they can endure a lot of physical pain to their bodies. Like, let me give you an example of, what I have heard from some of the soldiers who have been to Afghanistan. Indian soldiers, they have been to Afghanistan, to protect the dam which they're building. What happened is, two Afghanis, they were doing a betting. Two Afghanis were in betting mode. So what happened is, one Afghani lost. And what was the bet? I will chop off my hand. That was a bet actually. And he did it. The person who lost it, he chopped his hand. See, that's a whole lifetime thing. But that's how they take take the challenges into this thing. Now, if you see the Gandhari, she's also like that. She has done voluntarily. She completely binded, her eyes. Now, this is tapasya actually. This is a pativrata tapasya actually, and that is how she earned a lot of power through this. The people of that place are of such kind. The people who drank that water, they are of such time. In 18th century, Rudyard Kipling, who is famous for Jungle Book and all, he has given some sentences and quotes about the Afghani woman. Why he has given? Because the Indian Sikhs and the British Empire, the British, colonels and all, British army, they were going to capture this land of Afghanistan. So what happened is, the Rudyard Kipling, he said, because he is a historian working in India at that time, when 8 battalions has gone inside Afghanistan, the only commander of the battalion came back. And he was asked, where is the army? And he said in reply that I am the army alone. I am the army who has left. And then he described, that one person who was left behind, he was describing about the nature of the people in Afghanistan. And he was telling the people that women are so strong, when they came out, they came with the chisels and, chopping off the body of the soldiers like anything. That water is like that. So anywhere we go, we should know the nature of the people over there and the water, the kind of water over there. And you cannot take this off from, their bodies. That is so deeply ingrained to them that you should always be careful. Whenever the new civilizations you are meeting with, they have their own traits. They have their own, way of customs which their body gives, their water gives. I'm sorry, I've gone deep far. I will just end it over here only. Thank you so much.
No, it's nice to learn. So, Prabhuji, like in this one of the purport, it is like Draupadi is also called Krishna. Can you say why it's like she is Krishna, called Krishna?
See, one meaning of the word. Generally, we always think that Krishna means the Krishna which we call our Krishna, means Golok Krishna. So there is a slight different Mataji. Kri means Krishna, means the person who has a blackish hue on the body. Yeah. But our Krishna is not Kri, he is Krishna, Ruth. Krishna means all attractive.
So Krishna, Draupadi Krishna anostadam, Prabhuji?
Yeah. He who has that black one, because Draupadi is blackish. She's very beautiful, but she's blackish.
Because of she born from fire, it's because of that she's blackish.
No, Mataji, no, I don't know that, but it is said that Draupadi is blackish.
But we also say like Draupadi is so beautiful, right?
Yes, Mataji, that's what I said earlier also. Fairness doesn't have to do anything with the beauty. Beauty is different, fairness is different. But because of this Western culture, we have been taught with the beauty means fairness. And all this Bollywood, Tollywood, what do they promote? The fairness, no? If a woman looks, white, that's enough for them to make her, heroine. It's not like that earlier. The Natya Shastra completely differs with this argument. They say it depends upon the charm of a woman and the moves of a woman and the shape of the organs of a woman. That's what describes the beauty of a body. And the male also, they describe the male also in the same way. It is not the color or the fairness of the body. In
So
the
she
same
is
way,
in black color. That's why called Krishna.
that's why she's
And our
called
Krishna is Krishna.
Yeah, Krishna.
Hmm.
Our Krishna is called as Krishna, and Draupadi is known as Krishna.
Okay. Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. Shall we go to shloka recitation now?
Yes, Mother, it's already 9. We will again practice. We have done
The
yesterday.
same shloka.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ahobaki.
Just a second.
Mataji, should I recite line by line? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Just a second. I'm showing the slide.
Mataji, directly go to the SB, no? SB 1.16.16. Go into that Srimad Bhagavatam on database. We will read it from there.
Number, Prabhuji? SB?
116.16, Mataji.
116.
I'm sorry. No, that is not the thing. I will just go. Ahobaki, no? Mataji, 3.2.23.
Yeah.
SB 3.2.23.
ఏంటి Prabhuji నెంబర్ ఇందాక వచ్చింది
SB, just type like this, Mataji. SB
SB
3.2.23. వచ్చేసింది Mataji కింద. కింద దాని మీద క్లిక్ చేయండి Mataji. దాని కింద వచ్చింది. అది కాదు. Please repeat after me 3 times. I will do it 3 times every line. Aho bakiyam sthanakalakutam.
Aho bakiyam
स्तनकालकूटम्
Aho bakiyam sthanakalakutam.
अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूटम्
Aho bakiyam sthanakalakutam.
अहो
bakiyam
बकीयं स्तनकालकूटम्
Jigam sayapayayadapyasadvi.
जीगांशयापाययदप्यसाध्वी
Jigam sayapayayadapyasadvi.
जीगांशयापाययदप्यसाध्वी
Jigam sayapayayadapyasadvi.
जीगांशयापाययदप्यसाध्वी
I will repeat it 2 times more. Jigam sayapayayadapyasadvi.
जीगांशयापाययदप्यसाध्वी
Jigam sayapayayadapyasadvi.
जीगांशयापाययदप्यसाध्वी
लेभे गतिं धात्रयुचितं ततोऽन्यम्.
लेभे गतिं दातृचितं ततोऽन्यम्
लेभे गतिं धात्रयुचितं ततोऽन्यम्.
लेभे
गतिं दातृचितं ततोऽन्यम्
लेभे गतिं धात्रयुचितं ततोऽन्यम्.
लेभे गतिं दातृचितं ततोऽन्यम्
कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम.
कं वा
दयालुं
शरणं व्रजेम
कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम.
कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम
कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम.
कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम
2 lines together. अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूटं जीगां सयापाययदप्यसाध्वी.
अहो बकीयं
स्तनकालकूटम्
जिगांशयापाययदप्यसाध्वी
लेभे गतिं धात्रयुचितं ततोऽन्यं. कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम.
लेभे गतिं दातृचितं ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम
Yes, Mataji. Mataji, thank you so much. I should leave now, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. సంయుక్త మాతాజీ
ఎస్ మాతాజీ
ట్రై చేస్తారా ఒకసారి
యా చేస్తాను మాతాజీ
యా
అహో బకీయం స్తనకాలకూటం జీగాం సయాపాయయదాప్యసాధ్వి లేభే గతిం ధాత్రి ఉచితం తతోన్యం కం వా దయాళుం శరణం వ్రజేమ.
ఇంకొకసారి చేయండి 3 times
ఓకే మాతాజీ. అహో బకీయం స్తనకాలకూటం జీగాం సయాపాయయదాప్యసాధ్వి లేభే గతిం ధాత్రి ఉచితం తతోన్యం కం వా దయాళుం శరణం వ్రజేమ. అహో బకీయం స్తనకాలకూటం జీగాం సయాపాయయదాప్యసాధ్వి लेभे गतिं धात्री उचितं ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Sapan Kumar Prabhuji,
Yes, Mataji.
would you like to recite, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I'll try.
3 times you can do, Prabhuji.
अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूतं जिघां सयापाययाद्य अपि साध्वी लेभे गतिं धात्र्युचितं ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम. अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूतं जिघां सयापाययाद्य अपि साध्वी लेभे गतिं त्रयीचितं ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम. अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूतं जिघां सयापाययाद् अपि साध्वी लेभे गतिं त्रयीचितं ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम.
Very good, Prabhuji. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. మీరు తెలుగు
అవునండి.
తెలుగు ఓకే. సో కూటం అని ఉంది కదా, టీ కింద ఒక డాట్ ఉంది చూడండి. అప్పుడు మనము ట చదవాలి. ట కూటం కాదు, కూటం. ఓకేనా?
ఓకే ఓకే.
ఇంకోటి కింద షా ఉంది చూడండి, ఇక్కడ ఇది శరణం ఉంది చూడండి వ్రజేమ దగ్గర.
యా శరణం.
పైన అట్లా స్లాంట్ ఒక చిన్న లైన్ ఉంది చూడండి.
ఓకే.
అప్పుడు షా అని చదవాలి. శరణం తెలుగులో మనం షా రాస్తాం కదా, శక్కుంత అట్లా.
ఇంకా నా కింద డాట్ ఉంది. సో
నా పైన ఉంది చూడండి, అదేనా మీరు అనేది?
నా కింద శరణంలో
అనా వస్తుంది. శరణం
శరణం. ఓకే.
అనా వస్తుంది. శరణం అట్లా శరణం అని వస్తుంది.
ఓకే మాతాజీ, థ్యాంక్ యూ.
హరే కృష్ణ. I'll try. Okay. Aho bakiyam stanakaalakutam jigam shayapayayadapya sadvi lebe gatim datruchitam tatonyam tam vadayalum sharanam rajema. Aho bakiyam stanakaalakutam jigam shayapayayadapya sadvi लेबे गतिं दातृचितं ततोऽन्यं तं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम. अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूटं जीगां शयापायदप्यसाध्वी लेबे गतिं दातृचितं ततोऽन्यं तं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम. Yeah. థ్యాంక్ యూ. ఒకసారి ట్రాన్స్లేషన్ కూడా చదువుదాం. మాత చదువుతారా? సంయుక్త మాతాజీ.
Yes, Mataji.
చదవండి ట్రాన్స్లేషన్.
Yes, Mataji. Translation. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of a mother to a she-demon Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Purport. Here is an example of the extreme mercy of the Lord, even to his enemy. It is said that a noble man accepts the good qualities of a person of doubtful character, just as one accepts nectar from a stalk of poison. In his babyhood, he was administered deadly poison by Putana, a she-demon who tried to kill the wonderful baby. And because she was a demon, it was impossible for her to know that the Supreme Lord, even though playing the part of a baby, was no one less than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His value as the Supreme Lord did not diminish upon his becoming a baby to please his devotee Yashoda. The Lord may assume the form of a baby or a shape other than that of a human being, but it doesn't make the slightest difference. He is always the same Supreme. A living creature, however powerful he may become by dint of severe penance, can never become equal to the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna accepted the motherhood of Putana because she pretended to be an affectionate mother allowing Krishna to suck her breast. The Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate shelter? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you for joining today. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.